Today we are not going to tell just a disappearance. We are going to reconstruct an entire night. Minute by minute. Decision by decision. A night that began with a girls' night out and ended with an 18-year-old girl missing in the middle of the early hours of the morning. A case that has generated conflicting versions, media controversy, and a debate that is still open today. This is the story of Devan Escobar. It all begins on April 8, 2022. An 18-year-old girl leaves home to spend the night with two friends. The plan is the typical one for any weekend. Party, music, alcohol, and moving between private gatherings of young people. Around 10 p.m., she is already in contact with one of the friends she has arranged to meet. Everything is in motion. Shortly after, the three are together. And the night begins. The first stop is a party on Simón Bolívar Street. They arrive at approximately 11:30 p.m. using a private transport service. Before going in, they do what is common in this type of gathering. They stop at a supermarket and buy alcoholic drinks. Then they head to the location. But when they arrive, reality does not match what they expected. The party is already ending. There are few people. The atmosphere is dull. And many attendees are already leaving. They stay for about an hour, but the situation is clear. This is not what they were looking for. So they decide to leave. They order another vehicle. They head to a second party, this time in Villa Numancia. But history repeats itself. Again they arrive late. Again the party is winding down. Again the atmosphere is poor, almost empty, lacking the energy they expected. Throughout this journey, according to later testimonies, the girl had already been drinking alcohol, and her condition was progressively worsening. The night begins to lose direction. There is no fixed place. No stable party. Only movement. At 1:20 a.m., the three make a decision. Look for another party. But this time they do not know anyone. They start checking social media, Instagram, Facebook, nearby events, and they find a new gathering in the Numancia area. They decide to go. They arrive at approximately 1:30 a.m. And here everything changes. They are no longer in a familiar environment. No friends. No control over the surroundings. According to later testimonies, the girl was already heavily intoxicated. There is talk of altered behavior, even aggressive behavior. In that context, a key moment occurs. Security cameras record a scuffle between the girl and a boy. She leaves the place with him. There is a blow. Her friends intervene, and they return to the party. But the situation does not stabilize. The atmosphere is tense. And around 3 a.m., the organizers decide that the three must leave the party. The night is over for them. But what comes next is what changes everything. The two friends consider that they are in better condition than the girl. According to their later statements, she is the one causing problems. The one who is worse. The one who is out of control. And they make a decision. They call the transport service driver who had taken them earlier. The driver arrives around 4:10 a.m. And this is the most important point of the night. Only the girl gets into the vehicle. The other two friends do not accompany her. They leave her alone. During the journey, the driver encounters a difficult situation. The passenger is intoxicated and has no clear address. She cannot specify exactly where she wants to go. The trip becomes confusing. Finally, the vehicle stops in an isolated area, near a road leading toward Nuevo Laredo. According to the driver, the girl gets out of the vehicle at that point. She is left alone, in the middle of the night, with no clear destination, no company. At that moment, the driver contacts the friends. He informs them of the situation, and tells them he left her in an isolated area. The response he receives, according to his testimony, is that they had already left her there because she was causing problems, and that they could not take responsibility. The driver takes a photograph. In it, the girl can be seen, standing, alone, on the road, at 4:25 a.m. That image becomes one of the central pieces of the case. The image is now taken. An 18-year-old girl, alone, in the middle of a road, at 4:25 a.m. From that moment on, the case enters its most uncertain phase. Because now there are no parties, no friends, no clear explanations. Only a road, and an unknown direction. The first later camera recordings show the girl walking alone along the road. It is early morning. Cars pass by, and she is in a completely exposed environment. Alone. Without company. Without a clear direction. At a later point, another important record appears. She tries to enter a small booth or facility belonging to a transport agency nearby. She seems to be looking for help. Perhaps a phone. Perhaps orientation. But there is no one inside. She gets no response. And she continues walking. Later, cameras from the Nueva Castilla motel capture her arrival. She enters the premises. And from that point on, everything becomes more confusing. In one of the recordings, she is seen running. Her behavior appears altered, as if disoriented or frightened. Only she appears in the frame. No other person is visible at that moment. In another sequence, the camera shows her inside the motel area. She stops. She sits down. Then she stands up and begins walking toward the pool area. That is the last clear movement recorded inside the premises. After that, she disappears from camera view. As hours and days pass, her family reports her missing. A search begins. Cameras are reviewed. Routes are reconstructed. And little by little, the full timeline is built. The parties, the transport, the road, and finally the motel. But the most important thing is still missing. The location of the girl. On April 21, 2022, 13 days after the disappearance, a body is found. It is located inside cisterns in the pool area of the Nueva Castilla motel. Interconnected structures used as filtration tanks, containing water and a certain depth. The body is in an advanced state of decomposition. In a nearby cistern, personal belongings are found, including her bag with money and items. At that moment, official confirmation begins. It is the missing girl. The initial autopsy establishes a key point. The cause of death is a severe cranial contusion. A strong blow to the head. Drowning is not established as the primary cause. From this conclusion, the hypothesis of an accident is raised. The initial theory is clear. She would have fallen into the structure, suffered the blow, and died as a result of that fall. But the family does not accept that version. They do not consider it sufficient. They do not consider it closed. And they begin to insist on another line. They believe it is not an accident. They speak of possible femicide, third-party involvement, investigative failures, and doubts about how and when the body appeared. A second forensic analysis is requested, but this second report is not based on a new full examination of the body. It relies on the first autopsy, photographs, and previous documentation. This report raises more serious hypotheses. It mentions possible multiple blows, and suggests the possibility of sexual assault. However, this document is later questioned, mainly because it does not include complete complementary studies, such as histopathological analysis. Finally, after the exhumation of the body, a third autopsy is carried out. This third report changes the focus. It rules out conclusive signs of sexual assault. It does not confirm multiple blows as proven cause. And it does not establish with certainty that the death was homicidal. The difficulty remains in reconstructing exactly what happened due to the condition of the body and the passage of time. The case ends in a complex conclusion. Death by asphyxia and trauma is established, but without definitive proof of homicide, nor a precise reconstruction of the final mechanism of death. Meanwhile, the case has already left the judicial sphere. It has become a media phenomenon. Online, theories appear. Hoaxes, unproven accusations, and names publicly pointed at without official confirmation. Even the transport driver is, for a time, suspected in public debate, although those theories are later discarded. Over time, authorities modify the classification of the case at different stages. First, it is treated as femicide. Then the debate is reopened. And finally, it returns to being considered an accident. The case does not end with a single unanimous version. The only undisputed fact is the final point. An 18-year-old girl disappeared after a night out, and was found dead days later inside the Nueva Castilla motel facilities. When the body is confirmed, the story is no longer just a disappearance. It becomes a social phenomenon, a case that no longer lives only in police files, but on social media, in public debate, in headlines, and in a divided opinion that continues to grow. Within hours, the case spreads everywhere. Images are shared. Cameras are analyzed. Theories are reconstructed. And, as often happens in high-profile cases, unverified versions begin to appear. Some point to specific individuals. Others invent scenarios not supported by the investigation. A climate of cross-accusations emerges, with names exposed without solid evidence. One of the main targets of suspicion for a time is the transport driver. The image of the girl alone on the road fuels all kinds of theories. He is linked to hypotheses that are not supported by official evidence. And for a period, he becomes a central figure in public debate. However, as the investigation progresses, those theories lose strength and are eventually discarded. From here, the case splits into two very clear interpretations. On one side, the accident theory. On the other, the femicide theory. A technical aspect of the case is also the most debated. The first autopsy points to a severe cranial contusion. The second introduces more serious hypotheses, including sexual assault and multiple blows, but is later questioned for its methodology. The third autopsy, after exhumation, rules out sexual assault and does not confirm homicide with conclusive evidence. And even so, none of the three fully reconstructs the exact moment of death with certainty. Over time, authorities modify the classification of the case. It goes through different stages. It is considered femicide at one point, and later it returns to being classified as an accident. A change that reflects something important. The case never had a single definitive interpretation accepted by all parties involved. Beyond reports, cameras, and debates, one reality remains unchanged. An 18-year-old girl left home one night in April. She went to a party, moved between several gatherings, separated from her friends in the early hours, and ended up alone in a completely unknown environment. The case leaves open questions that continue to generate debate. What exactly happened in the final stretch? Whether there was negligence, whether there was an avoidable accident, or whether an external factor not proven was involved. But what is clearly documented is the sequence of events. The parties, the transport, the road, the motel, and the final discovery. This case does not only divide opinions. It also reveals something broader. How facts are interpreted when there is no single clear answer. How social media amplifies theories. And how public opinion can run ahead of official conclusions. And that is the end of today's case on Jon Crime. A complex case. A case full of nuances. And a case where, despite all versions, one reality remains. An 18-year-old girl who did not return home that night. If you want, you can leave your opinion in the comments. Accident, negligence, or something else. See you in the next case. Good night.